Welcome to the Musician Circle podcast with your host, Aiden Brookstone, only at Studio Raphael. Jared, man, thanks so much for being here on the podcast with me. Great to have you.
No, great. Thanks for having me, man. It's an honor and a pleasure, good sir.
Oh, I feel the same. So real quick, just tell me a little bit about yourself, your history with music, and we'll just kind of let the conversation flow from there.
Oh, I was about to say, man, my love for music started way back. It's like a hereditary thing. It's like my grandmother played, and then my uncle played, and everything like that, and just that's where the love came from. Just I guess the mystique of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a little kid, and I was like, wow, what are these instruments that they're playing and everything like that. And then, man, I stayed, I think a weekend over at my uncle's, and he had like a Stratocaster, and I was like, just seeing him shred on it, I was like, I must play this instrument and everything
Nice.
like that. Then, I think everybody else in the late '80s, early '90s, like who were born in '86, like myself, all we have is like country music or the music our parents were listening to. Then and whenever I turned 7, that's Never Enter Sandman entered my life, and I was just like, what the hell is this? So
that's an early
man,
time to be getting into Metallica.
yeah, it's just like my parents were like, oh no, we must hide him away from this. And then he likes Brooks and Dunn and George Strait and all that, but I was like, no, what is this?
Who are the others? Brooks and Dunn? George Strait?
Huh?
Would you Brooks and Dunn and George Strait? Were those guys? What'd you say?
I think I was supposed to be into them. That's what my parents kept shooing me into and everything like that. They're like, he's going to listen to what we listen to.
Right.
But, my mom's a classic rock fanatic, and I think she was, I don't know how to say it. She just said, let's see what happens. And then, my love for classic rock, and then just alternative music. It's like he grew up in the early '90s, so he had like that grunge era, just alternative rock, just always on the radio, just playing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes. And then whenever that ended, you had the '90s. What is it? The Brit pop thing happening with Oasis and Blur and everything like that, and it just like kept rolling. And finally, it's like I got a electric guitar in the year 1999, and it's like that was my Red Ryder BB gun. I got it Christmas morning.
Right.
After years of begging for one, it's like I finally got it, and man, it's like I hadn't put it down. You know what I mean?
So guitar is the instrument of choice.
Oh yes, and nice. I was about to say the only time I put it down was during college. It was like I just got too busy with the degrees I was pursuing and everything like that. But it's like you just kind of get into that thing where I don't know. It's like a big theme of my life. It's just like I can only do like how to explain it. It's like I did what everybody else wanted me to do.
Right.
I went and did the degree thing and everything like that. And then whenever you're done with that, it's like you get a job, and then it's just like, now what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a thing. I don't know if you ever.
Dude, that's literally what my experience was at university. Like I very much went down the traditional path for a lot of years. Like I tried my first year at university in chemistry, which where I am now, totally different. My start of my second year, I was taking 3 chemistry courses. I got a B, a C, and a D in them. And I was like, maybe I suck at this. And at the same sort of time, I was kind of finding my way into music. And by the start of my third year, I switched to film, and like 4 of my courses were online, and the other one I just didn't have to go to. So I was like literally in bed playing World of Warcraft all day. And I was like, what am I doing here? And thank God my parents are super supportive of me. And I basically just messaged my dad, and I was like, I need to come home. And he just basically came to get me that next weekend. And from then on, I was like, I need to figure out what I want to do in life. And I just, at the start of university, I picked up guitar, and I just found so much beauty and love for it. And music just has slowly become my way of being. So yeah, absolutely, man.
It's amazing. What was your first song though? Like, what's the first song that you just learned how to play? I'm always interested in what's your first.
It was what inspired me to pick up guitar. I started with like piano, like most kids. There was a piano in our home, which got us going. And
Yeah.
then through school, my oldest brother was playing tenor saxophone, so I started playing tenor sax, and it's actually sitting in its case right here by me, which I need to pick up. And I keep saying that, but haven't actually done it. And then my other brother was playing guitar, and he was playing. It was the one riff from "The Needle and the Damage Done" by Neil Young, like dun, dun,
Yes.
dun, 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 and I just loved how that sounded from his room, and I was like, I want to learn that one as well as Tears in Heaven,
Tears in
Tears,
Heaven. Yeah, man, those
yeah,
are both good ones.
oh yeah. So those were my two like big introductions into guitar, but my big introduction to like I also studied sound design and love music mixing, and I just love how things sound. And the album that really like changed how I heard music was Loveless by My Bloody Valentine.
I've been listening to them lately. Well, that's the thing. It's like it just comes on my shuffle,
Yeah,
and it's like a Pink album
yeah,
cover, something like that, and
yeah,
it's just like it just sounds great because it's like
yeah. I'm
I
glad
don't
you
know
think
how
so.
to. Yeah, go ahead, man.
No,
You
yeah.
know more about this than I do.
No, like even I mean, one thing I appreciate was Kevin Shields and like how much determination he put into that album. Like there's a story of them finding the right tambourine sound, and I think just for one tambourine they spent somewhere between the range of 3 to 6 months, I think it was, just for the one sound. But like the sheer attention to detail in that album and the way in which they were able to create just walls of sound where you don't know where stuff is coming from, that was just so incredible to me.
That's what I wanted. And I'm just trying to put it into words, but it does sound like wall of sound, but
Mhm.
it's a pleasant wall of sound. You know, it's
Mhm.
like really nicely orchestrated and everything like that. Like behind that wall of sound is a melody.
Yeah.
You know, some of those songs, and I'm just sitting there like, damn. You know, it makes like I was working in my garage in my shop, and it's like it just came on, and it's like one of the few bands that made me stop what I was doing. I was just like, what?
Oh.
You know, and Kevin Shields, like my introduction to him was through the Lost in Translation soundtrack. It's a
I didn't know
beautiful
we did that.
soundtrack, and Sofia Coppola, I think, used him as like a music, just a somebody to console with and everything
Right.
like that. It's a beautiful soundtrack, and there's there one of the My Bloody Valentine songs is on there, and I cannot remember, but it's like a popular one. But it's a beautiful soundtrack, you
Off
know.
that album, the one that always comes to me, blown a wish, blown a kiss, I think it's one of the two of those. But there's just
You
this
know,
like there's some beautiful harmonies and melodies in there that I just like I lose myself in it.
yeah, yeah, it's great. They had that album as well, Death in Vegas, and a few other great ones.
My Bloody
Yeah,
Valentine? Did they?
no, no, no. I was talking
Oh.
about just in Lost in Translation,
Okay.
and then damn, there's another, just like Honey. That's another
That's
song
no,
that's
that's Psycho Candy. That's Jesus and Mary Chain.
yeah, Jesus in the Mary Chain. Yeah, that
Yeah.
like closes out the album, and it's just like a if you just want a nice album just to chill to on the couch whenever you got nothing going on
Yeah.
and you just feel like staring at the ceiling or just you want to go out on a walk on this lovely fall weather and
Yeah.
everything like that, that's your soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
That's your soundtrack.
That's just like that's I think the sort of area of music, and I'm glad that you like it as well, that like really sucked me into what music can be. I think a lot of times, especially in
Yes.
like the pop world, it's kind of like this is what music is, but that kind of it makes people forget about the infinite nature of music and what's really possible within it. And sort of my brother at the time, he was living in Montreal, and he was like going to the underground music stuff there, so that kind of opened my eyes up to other sides of music as well. But yeah, just like
Mhm.
that whole Slow Dive and My Bloody Valentine were two big ones for me. But then it was also like Lush, Oasis, Blur,
Yeah.
just like that whole scene of music, Jesus and Mary Chain, that was just it's you don't understand what they're saying, but it's like the feeling is able to move you to a
Yes.
space, and that is, I love that.
I love it because it's like I can go maybe years without listening to some of those songs, and as soon as I hear them, it like puts me back into that nostalgic place. It's like I remember the time in my life that I heard that for the first time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Champagne Supernova. by Oasis, man. I think it was summer. I think 94, maybe 95, like mid 90s.
Hmm.
You know, and it was just summertime and everything like that. And during that time, it's like it's just you and your buds on a bicycle, just going across the town, swimming. You know, the possibilities were endless, and it's
Hmm.
just like whenever I hear that song, it just like takes me back.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like a Stand By Me moment, you know, kind of a
Hmm.
thing. So,
It just makes me want to sing it. That's
oh,
all
go ahead, brother. I'm not
uh,
judging.
nah, I don't think so.
I
But
can't sing it. You don't want me to.
well, I guess I'm curious as well, then, man. Like, what's the sort of music that you said Metallica? What other music made you, so to speak?
I was about to say the first album that I bought with my own money was it should have been Metallica, but it was like Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy, and the Infinite Sadness. And it's like you couldn't escape that album whenever it came out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It was just always playing on rotation on MTV. 1979 was just an incredible. The guitar riff still stands. You know,
That
it's still a
album,
great.
bro,
Huh?
1970. I've listened to a lot of Siamese Dream. I didn't
Siamese Dream is
know.
great.
Yeah, I didn't know they released their first album. Was that their first album in 1979?
No, oh no. That the
1999?
single.
Oh,
No, the song 1979. It's like from.
oh, okay. I
That's
was
just the title of
confused.
the song. You
Okay,
scared me for a moment. I was like,
you
wait, they
scared me.
haven't been around that long.
Yeah, I thought so too.
No, you're cool.
Yeah, got
No,
it.
no, no. And you know, it's like I just heard the pop songs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's just like you dive into that, and it's just like, yeah, I went into that album thinking just one thing, but it was just something totally different, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like a great album full of like love songs and just like unrequited love and everything like that, and
Mm-hmm.
just a whole plethora of things, and it was just like beautiful, gorgeous, and it's just like aged so well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then the next album I buy is like ACDC Live in Dunnington. I love live albums for
Cool.
some reason. You know, I
Yeah.
just love the energy of it
Yeah.
and just like what's going on, and just I don't know. You just are always in for a surprise with like live albums.
For sure. I mean,
So
like it's a whole conversation in and of itself in some ways. The difference
yeah,
between what a studio recording offers you versus what you get out of a live album. It's there's nothing like the live experience. I think in some ways the live experience has been by the nature of a lot of artists nowadays just pressing play on Spotify and then they just kind of sing over top of whatever their backing track is. I think we've kind of
yeah.
lost a lot of what live music used to be. I could be wrong there, but I don't
No,
know.
no, no. And that's the thing. I haven't been to like enough live shows lately,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But it's like I know that there's still the bands out there that truly care, you
Yeah.
know. And it's like I saw, man, it was just on a whim. It's like my birthday gift. I was like, wow, tickets for Exodus, Black Label Society, and Anthrax. I was like, I'll go to that. You know, it's like a little over $100.
Mm-hmm.
Holy Toledo is fantastic, especially seeing Black Label Society live. That was great.
Are they like hardcore rock
Oh,
kind?
they're like, well, it's fronted by Ozzy Osbourne's former guitar player, Zach Wild, and he's like just buddies with everybody that's like a metalhead.
Mm-hmm.
And what was cool was that Exodus, you know, this hardcore thrash band from the 80s, just an insane mosh pit. Then Black Label Society, Zach Wild's band comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very chill. Nobody's getting all rowdy or anything like that. And what was cool was that you saw a bunch of dads bring their kids to the show and like set them up on their shoulders, you know, and Zach Wild just comes out there. If Thor came down like a rock star,
Mm-hmm.
that's what he would look like. Just
Right.
the whole time Zach Wild's playing, he just shreds, and there may be like a little break in the song, and he just just raises his pick to the gods and
Oh
just
man.
shreds. And then
Uh,
he played that song "Endless River," which is dedicated to Dimebag Daryl from Pantera, and it's just like it just gets really quiet, and
mm-hmm.
you can just tell that he's like still feeling it,
Mm-hmm.
the loss of like a brother of his,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like damn,
Mm-hmm.
there's still some great live bands to go see, and that people aren't just phoning it in. You still get your money's worth with some good bands.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is like your favorite live show that you've been to,
Oh,
or like at least a memorable one?
yeah, that's I haven't been to like a good live show in a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, One of my favorites, just due to the timing where I was at in my life and how I related to the music, Tame Impala when they just released uh it was whatever album, their third album, his third album. I guess it's Kevin Parker's sort of solo project. But it was just it was at this venue in Vancouver, Stanley Park area, Malkin Bowl. It was an outdoor venue, beautiful summer day, and they were playing as the sun was coming down, and it's just like psychedelic rock music, and you're just sort of listening to this beautiful sort of instrumentation while the sun's coming down in a beautiful park, and it just was all the pieces added together to create an incredible experience. um Outside of that, I think Slowdive was a good experience as well, but a little bit, I wish I saw them when they were like 17 still rather than, in their 40s and 50s. That's
I'm
kind of
writing
a
down a list, by the
yeah.
way. I'm just like these
All right.
bands. I should. I'm just saying, like Tame Impala, familiar with, but can I name one song off the top of my head? No.
They're kind of like
But
one of those indie bands that I feel like kind of a cop out for saying, because they're, those bands that like get popular in the mainstream in a way that they kind of started as a cool underground band, but then they become like the cool underground mainstream, where they're mainstream enough that everybody knows them, but not mainstream to the point that they're like
they're not
over.
household names. You
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I mean?
totally. So there's a lot of
So
like that hipster scene that's like, oh yeah, I'm like a Tame Impala fan. So I
probably
kind of feel like
mistake.
that.
Sorry about that.
No, no, that's fine.
Slow Dive. I think they sing this song that I like called "I Didn't Know." It's like a very chill song, I think.
Probably.
Or "Don't Wait for Me" or something like that. I gotta look at it because it's like I'm probably wrong,
That's
but
fine. If I had to pick a band for sheer nostalgia's sake, there was a great event that came through Vancouver. Actually, they played in Abbotsford 2 years ago.
yeah.
That's a whole other story, but it was six groups. Two of them couldn't make it, but it was Aqua, Venga Boys, Hadaway, Eiffel 65, Ace of Base, and one other I think that I'm missing right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Hadaway and Eiffel 65 couldn't make it. The only two songs I really know from them, Hadaway, are, What is Love, Baby, Don't Hurt Me, Don't Hurt
Yes.
Me. Classic. And then Eiffel 65, I'm Blue, da ba dee da ba da. So I was like, I didn't get to hear those, but as a kid, I grew up with like Crazy Frog, Aqua, Venga Boys. I was a really weird listening kid. Like James Brown, Queen, Modest Mouse, Beastie Boys. I was kind of all
Oh,
over the map as a kid.
the Beastie Boys.
Oh,
That's an. We can talk for hours about my love for that band
yeah.
or that group.
But yeah, I didn't think at this point, at 27 years of age, that the only band I would have seen twice was Aqua. But it
Uh,
is. And I'm super happy about that.
how many people can say that though? That's the thing.
I
It's like
know.
you should wear that as like a badge of honor,
I
man.
kind of do. Uh,
It's,
yeah, I guess actually, now that you also bring it up, I actually went to Glastonbury like 6 years ago. My
yeah.
brothers. That I don't like the festival scene, I'll be honest. I think it's a little intimidating. Thankfully we were glamping, so we had like private bathrooms up in the teepee area, which was pretty sweet, because those sort of stalls without proper doors and everything give me anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, but that was a lot of amazing shows as well. Anderson .Paak, Solange, I think Thundercat. Just so much music was there. You're just walking around taking it all in. Yeah. What about you? Any favorite shows?
Oh man. All right. The one show that like blew me away and I did not expect it. It was like a festival in Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and it only happened once, I think, called the Boom Bash, and it was just like all these old school hip hop artists in one bill. You had uh, LL Cool J, DJ Jazzy Jeff or
Mm-hmm.
Jazzy Fresh, and then who was it? The Ghetto Boys, Public Enemy, Big Daddy Kane, and the Furious Five. You know, it's like I love old school hip hop as well,
Okay.
and they all just put on a hell of a show. And I think the Ghetto Boys singing "My Mind Playing Tricks on Me" has to be like my favorite concert experience
Hmm.
because it was just like I think 10 to 20,000 people in the Woodlands, and I think one of the members wasn't there. You know what I mean? So I was just like, they'll probably just skip his part.
Right.
No, everybody rose up
Hmm.
and just like started singing that part of the song, that verse, just word for word and everything
Oh
like that.
man.
And I was just like, holy shit. You know, it's just like people are just, there's no signal to do
Yeah.
that. People just got up and just started like singing that part. And, you know, the Ghetto Boys, I think, are from Houston. So it's like, you know, the home team's there.
Hmm.
And everybody just like got up and just started singing that part word for word, like in unison, just a crowd of like I said, 10 to 20,000 people. And I was just like,
Yeah.
dude, this is like magic.
Oh
This is like
man.
what I love about music. You know, it's just unprompted.
Hmm.
Everybody knew the assignment, I guess you could say. Everybody
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
knew the cue of what to do. And I was just like, this is so cool. You
That's
know, it's just like, it was amazing. It's been etched in my brain. It's been like, I think 6 years or something like that since that's happened. I was just like, it's not going to get any better than that.
yeah.
That's
I mean,
cool.
I can bring that back to sort of your question that you asked before, just right before we started the
Yeah.
conversation of the podcast in terms of like what brought me to bringing it or pulling it together is like exactly that kind of an experience where just like I don't it really something really rose up in me to pull it together when you know the recent conflict happened with Israel and everything going on there that I was
Yes.
like I just saw it as another means of division happening in the world. And then you look at an experience like that you had in music where it didn't matter what race or religion anybody in that room was or in that
Yeah.
space. It was just they knew what they needed to do, which was sing that song and come together as people and connect. And like that is what really drew me to this sort of podcast was that connection that we all have to music. And while I do, I call it the musician circle because I think in some ways it's a lot easier to connect with musicians, so to speak, or people who actually
Yeah.
play instruments. But like, I have a bit of a philosophy based around everybody being a musician in their own right and how
Ooh.
as people we are, we're either creating harmony or disharmony in our lives. And in our actions and it's the alignment of our mind and body and spirit that creates either harmonious living or disharmonious living, and it's how do we tune ourselves to one another to create harmony as people. And that is what brings me to just having conversations, because that's you can't create harmony when you're all living in your own idea of reality but not actually coming together to discover what it is that brings us together. So yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like being a musician. It's like, you know, how you're talking about this conversation and connection and everything like that. And it's just like, I felt that last year. It was like I was facing the major depression and
Mm-hmm.
everything. Just I had a relationship that ended after so many years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just like I went busking, you know, just to go outside and play street musicians and everything like that, and just the strangers you come across. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm-hmm.
you just meet the most random people that you did not know that you needed to meet
Mm-hmm.
at that place and time and everything like that. And I think there was this one time I was feeling the lowest of the lows. I just found out my grandfather passed away, and I was just like, I got to go play, just to
Mm-hmm.
like get out of my system.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just playing music, and this random old 80-year-old dude just popped up and just started singing like soulful gospel music. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I was just like playing blues, slide guitar blues. I had my cajon going and my guitar. I had like this like blues beat going, you know, and it's just like it's what I needed, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool, like because I work as a teacher as well,
Oh, nice.
so it's just like you get to be involved with this community. You get to involve that misfit kid that may not be the sports hero that
Mm-hmm.
gets the glory and everything like that, but damn if that boy can play a mean guitar or ukulele, and then he just finds his people, and it's just like that. makes my day too.
Hmm.
So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. There's it's the ability that music has to bring people together. That's just so like I'm looking at it as an opportunity in my city because my city, Vancouver, first off, it's expensive, and for the average person, if you're not making more than generally speaking like 25 to 30 bucks an hour, you're having a hard time living in the city, which
Yeah,
where minimum wage is, I think like 17.90 for the average artist, musician, or person who just wants to come live here and also experience a culture. There isn't much of one. So I see that as an opportunity to step into something to, just when you walk into a space and there's people playing music together. You don't need to be the greatest musician to lay down a little drum beat with people. You don't need to be, the Jimi Hendrix to walk
yeah,
in and play a little riff on guitar and just get people playing together. And it's sort of looking at the opportunities and the ways in which we move past what was, I guess, and
yes,
into a space and an identity of reality in which we can come together as people. And yeah, no, that's just really what's inspiring this whole process for me. So
no, that's
that's
cool. I
yeah.
can't imagine the flood of emails you probably got it whenever you announced it on Reddit. I just sat there like, oh, that poor boy.
No, I
Just
love
like
it.
everybody,
It's
it's like
exciting for me.
probably millions of people that just like, yes, I would do a podcast about music. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Surprisingly, like I think I've got about another 15 conversations lined up after this one over the course of the next month or so, which is
yeah,
amazing. There's actually still a
yeah,
lot of people who, message say I'm interested. I message them, they don't respond. I think that's just kind of some people are ready for it, some people aren't. It's nothing to do with me. I respect that.
man. This is like my second podcast, and I was like, oh man, I was like, I hope it's not something where he's just trolling me the whole time. I was like, I need to probably, I was like,
What?
he's just gonna be a jerk.
Is that what happened the first time?
No, 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 no.
Okay,
It's
good.
just like I'm so used to like this prank culture that we live in and everything like that. And I was like, I'm probably just gonna get trolled. That
No.
but that's my brain. It always goes
Yeah.
to the worst case scenario.
Yep.
And I'm just like, it's probably nothing. It's probably this cool dude, like, just want to have a conversation about just geeking out over our love of music. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is exactly what it is and everything like that. And I was like, I
Yeah.
love it. It's cool.
That's great. It's funny for me, just like I always have a little bit of anxiety. This is now my
Yeah.
fifth conversation. This is my fifth conversation. The
Oh, that's
first
cool.
yeah, the first like three, the jitters were there, and I was like, what am I talking about? What am I doing? What are people gonna think? Just that sort of thing. This morning when I had the conversation, I was like, okay, it's just conversations, and I'm just getting to chat and meet cool people, which leads into this, and it's like
Yeah.
I still kind of, I don't know what to expect myself. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, who's going to be on the other side of the screen to me? What sort of questions and conversations going to come up? I kind of, I let that happen. I allow the conversation to take place. But yeah,
What, what
hmm?
Oh, sorry to cut you off.
No, no, that's
I was
fine.
just gonna ask, like, what's the coolest story you've heard so far? You know what I mean? Just like, what's some
Hmm.
enlightening that you've heard from somebody else, or I guess the previous people before me, like, or I guess just doing this
Yeah.
podcast so far.
I mean, I can give you a basic rundown of like the first four people, I guess. So it's like Mule,
Okay.
he's a drummer. Uh, there's gonna be bits and pieces I forget, of course, but his path is just really interesting in how he worked towards his space as being a professional drummer and what that means to him, and what it means to play in a group with people, what it means to become somebody that people want to work with, what it means to
Yes.
be a drummer in a band, and how to take a step back and allow other players to shine. That was a really great aspect of conversation with him. Shuggy, the second guy, which just that episode just released today.
Oh,
um,
okay.
so he was running a label and was really a big part of his budding scene in, pretty sure, what are the Twin Cities? It's Minnesota or Minneapolis? Minnesota. I'm bad with
Oh,
geography.
I'm gonna have to like look up my geography on that one.
Yeah.
I'm terribly sorry.
No, no, I
I
should
live
be
in
the one
America
who's
too.
sorry here.
No, no, no. You're cool. You're cool,
Yeah.
man.
But yeah,
I had
he
to write
his
that down.
sort of path into running a label, being in the punk scene, learning what it means to build community and connect with people, and really create an environment where everybody's lifting one another up. That was a really great aspect of conversation with him, and just talking about like the commercialization of music and how that affects the artist, and talking about just the rates of depression and suicide and everything else that comes along with the music industry, and how artists have just been taken advantage of for so long. And that was
Yeah.
just so much to talk about there. Glenn, which will come out next week, was a beautiful conversation just about how music is also just so much about family, and to not to everybody, a lot of people think music needs to be on the grand stage, and unless you're playing to thousands and thousands of people, then the music isn't worth it. But being reminded that you know a lot of the time, or maybe not a lot of the time, but there's always that space for music still that's just about family and just about being close with people and connecting and really bringing us together on, sure, a large scale, but also that smaller scale. He really gives that homegrown sort of, he plays in a band with his brother, and just being had the music of family, I think maybe is
Yeah.
a good way to put it. And then the conversation this morning with Wesley, he's also in sort of the hardcore rock metal scene. Super, super duper nice guy. But just discussing, I guess. Let me see if I can rewind my brain to a few hours
No,
ago.
no, no. You're cool, man. And I feel like I put you on the spot with them.
No,
I'm sorry.
hey, it's don't apologize here. Absolutely not. This is the space for conversation and chatting and whatever comes up. I love it. But yeah, Wesley was. Unless you really need to apologize. If you need to apologize, I'll tell you to apologize.
No,
But
no, no.
not in
It's
this
just in my
case.
nature, and it's just like I
Yeah.
apologize over like the smallest things, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, wait. Even my friends are like, "Don't do that," and I'm just like, and it's like I'm about to say my bad, bro, but then I'm just
Right.
like, okay.
No, you're good. Um, yeah, no, Wesley, we were talking about sort of the metal scene, and what that kind of like. My experiences with metalheads is like they get all their emotion out on the stage, but then you meet them and they're just all these really kind, loving people. And we were talking a
Yes.
bit about the politics as well in music, and discussing how music influences, but also the ability to take music and process it out as emotion. Something he said, which I really loved, was how to him, he'll write something as a way of processing it, and then it gives him the ability to, a week or so or months later, like look back on that song that he made and sort of get a better idea of what he was going through. And that was a really eye-opening way of seeing music as well, which I feel like I've heard before, but somehow, somebody can tell you something over and over and over again, but then there's
Yeah.
that one time where somebody says it and it lands, and you're like, right. And
Yeah. It's just something that you just, you try to process in the words, and he just like killed it with it.
yeah.
So, no, it's like I had that moment over the summer. It's like I finally wanted to challenge myself as a musician. I was like, all right, it can't be about instrumentals all the time. Let's try to sing.
Mm-hmm.
Singing is like the number one fear that I have. I'd rather a spider crawl on me. I'd rather go skydiving than
Mm-hmm.
sing in front of like a few people.
Interesting.
And it's just like I started writing down songs and everything like that, and just testing them out.
Mm-hmm.
And the first show, it went quiet, and then people were. So I heard somebody in the audience say, "Man, that was terrible," and I was just like,
No.
"Well, you know what? That's my bottom. If I keep practicing, it's only going to get better."
Yeah.
And eventually it did get better, and
Totally.
then it was a lot of fun, and it's like what you just said about the last guy. What was his name? Wesley.
Wesley. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like I was doing that where I was processing and writing down some stuff that I was going through or have been going through. It's like, opening up old journals again and just like trying to find a metaphor to that situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't want to upright say this is what this song's about. Nah, I got to disguise it using some metaphors and
Mm-hmm.
symbolisms and everything like that. And it was a great, like, therapeutic way to get through it, and it was like exposure therapy at the same time of just tackling a fear that I have,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Which is something
And
I'd
it
be. Oh, sorry. That's my
oh
turn
no
to
no no, go
apologize.
ahead, go ahead.
um, because I actually struggle with a bit of a fear of singing as well, which comes from some point in my life. I don't know where I kind of learned that maybe sharing my song or expressing myself in that sort of sense was maybe something I needed to suppress. But yeah, where do you think that fear comes from?
I honestly, I think it was like a nurture kind of deal to where it's like, I'd sing and somebody just be like, can you please be quiet? Just kind of a thing,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
just stick with the guitar, don't sing.
Right.
And that's the thing, is that I just didn't know how. I just didn't know that, like, your voice, you just can't sing. You have to like train.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like you can just outright belch it out. You
Mm-hmm.
have to like learn. And what's funny was that, as a teacher, there's moments where I have to get the class to like be quiet, and it just came from the diaphragm. And then, people will just be quiet. And I'm just sitting there like, all right, if I can channel that,
Mm-hmm.
just not so much, yell or get it out, but just like talk more sternly.
Yeah.
Just use that with the singing and everything like that. Use your
Mm-hmm.
vocals and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got better. You know what I mean? It was like eventually I got more confident in myself. And like I said, the next few times I played at the open mics and on the island of Galveston, people were just saying like, "Wow, just like it's getting better and better." And
Mm-hmm.
you got some good musicians in Galveston, and just a whole bunch of people that come from all different sorts of walks of life throughout this country. And
Mm-hmm.
it was cool just jamming with them and just having that community like you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, Monday nights we gather over at the old Galveston Club, and it just feels like I'm in Goodfellas, like with our group, that movie. It's just like we're all just
Mm-hmm.
there, good times,
Mm-hmm.
getting our music out and everything like that, just jamming. And it was just like paradise to me. That's heaven, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
That's
Just
great.
that little community that like, I feel grateful for, that just took me in,
Yeah.
Just
Awesome.
always felt like I was searching for my people. And just one random day busking, one of them was just like, "Hey, why don't you come over to Old Galveston Club and jam out with us?" And I felt like I was taken in, and I was just like, "Yes,
Oh man,
found my people."
that's so nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
all the difference in the world finding that community.
Yeah. That's like. I mean, there's a few things I want to mention from that. One is how, I guess, the process of like finding our voice. I think that's a super interesting discussion to have, which is another thing that can be talked about for hours on end. But it's like just
Yes.
mentioning like how when you find it in your diaphragm, and it's like you hear singers who aren't necessarily the most amazing singers, but they have this strength and confidence and authority in their voice that when it comes through, it's just like it's there. You would think of a guy like Louis Armstrong, who traditionally speaking, he doesn't have a beautiful voice, but
Yeah.
when he channels that sort of inner sense of him, and it's like that raspiness comes through in a way like What a Wonderful World is just so iconic. And if anybody else sang it, I don't know
Mm.
if it would have the same sort of impact.
No, no, man, I don't know, because it's like Joey Ramone is one of my favorites. Like somebody asked me who's my favorite lead singer, and I was like, probably Joey Ramone.
Mm-hmm.
And he did his version of "What a Wonderful World," and I was like, it's great. But whenever you compare it to Louis Armstrong, I'm just like, damn, the way
Yeah.
that like his voice is utilized with that peaceful,
Mm-hmm.
calming music. It's just like there's something about playing that song during Christmas. And it just like it's kind of like a reminder that there's still some beautiful things on this
Mm-hmm.
planet, despite the hell that we're probably all going through with everything. But
Yep.
um,
Amen to that.
yeah, like how they utilize his voice and everything like that. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's like in some ways it's I think most people in music, or at the very least like in the beginning of the career or the journey, like when people are finding their voice and they don't have it, it's amazing to me
yeah,
that people will say to them like, no, your voice sucks, don't work on it, sort of a thing. But it's like
you know,
that's the voice, and I think this is probably something most musicians or producers as well would agree with, is how the voice is our most powerful instrument and our most versatile instrument. It's amazing what our voice can do, and to shut the voice down and say it's not developed enough, it's not good enough,
Yeah.
it's not powerful, don't use it. That's silencing the people. And that is sort of, I mean, first off, that's not at all what I would want to do through the podcast, which is why I find it funny in some ways that when I just say to the average individual, like, I want to talk to you, and they're like, oh my gosh, you want to talk to me? I'm flattered. It's like, no, like, of course, like, we are the people. We're in this together. Like, absolutely. Your story is just as important as anybody else's, but the voices have been minimized to a point that it's like people think that because they just live average lives and they're just doing average things, that for some reason their truth doesn't add anything, when in reality everything is made up of everything. You can't just say one person isn't a part of it but everybody else is.
Yeah.
Everybody has an input to share, and finding a way to build into people's strengths, authorities, and give people confidence as well that their voice matters. That's
Yeah.
that's what do you think somebody like Freddie Mercury would think to themselves when he's on stage and he's singing to tens of thousands of people? Is he up there going, nobody cares about my voice and nobody's interested in it? Or he's like, I'm gonna AO the heck out of everybody here, they're all gonna sing it back to me, and we're just gonna share a moment in unison through the power of voice, and then just having that fuel of confidence, like that's
Yeah.
music.
When I think it was Dave Grohl that said that. He's just like bashing on American Idol, and I think that was like kind of my give it another shot moment. Was that he just said, those people, those judges would bash Bob Dylan and your Neil Youngs if they ever participate on that show.
Yep.
It's like, those participants sing great,
Mm-hmm.
but you got Neil Young and your Bob Dylans over there. They're just like amazing songwriters that know how to use the power of words,
Mm-hmm.
and just like make their lyrics, like poetry in a way that it's just like a work of art with what they do,
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool. Like I said, I just had my moment where I was playing Dead Flowers by Rolling Stones. That's like my go-to song to sing out loud. And I was just singing it at that old Galveston club, and all of a sudden, like, some people go out and they smoke a cigarette or whatever, and then all of a sudden they all just came back in. They all started like singing that song. They just loved it, and I just sat there like, oh man. I was like, I think I got it, just kind of a thing. So I was like,
cool.
Okay, don't blow this up. Don't screw up.
Yeah. As soon as it's going good, you're in your head and you're like, ah, shit. Yeah.
I know. I was like just singing it, and all of a sudden I heard another voice just like come in, and then another one. I was just like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's oh man. That's a good feeling.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm still working on that voice. I'm at a point where it's just like I'm okay to sing. If somebody were to like ask me, I mean, I don't like to do requests or anything like that, but if it's just like, if I like that song, if I feel like I can like genuinely pull it off, I was like, I'll give it a shot, just kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I said, it's therapeutic in a weird way to find something that you've been told that you're not good at, and you do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just like despite the judgment that you may feel, that some people feel and everything like that, but just to like, it's like the ultimate F you. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate win.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
No, I mean, it's like it's a world where people are often frowned upon for trying things, as though it's like if we're gonna create something better for ourselves, then we have to at the very least try and do things, and we're gonna fail. That's the nature of improvement, is that not everything that we do is gonna work out, but if we don't at the very least try and work towards something, then how the heck are we ever gonna know? And yeah, like going up there, and trying. I think like that as well is what, in my process of trying things over the last 2 years, that's what got me to a point where I've recognized now that when these judgments come in, it has nothing to do with me. It
Yeah.
has to do with the individual's fear within themselves towards something like that. So they put down others, and everybody's got their own trauma to work through. And I want to also create a sort of space where that's accepted and that's okay. We've all got our own burden and weights that we're pushing through. But really,
Yeah.
I think working past that space where trying is seen as bad, and getting to a space where people are encouraged to step out of their comfort zone, but also being given and provided like safe, healthy environments to do it. Because
Yeah.
when you try something new, there's a lot of people who I'm sure were in the same boat as you, where they went up on stage to sing and somebody in the audience said, "Boo, that sucked," and then they took that to heart and then never sang again. And so I
Yeah.
applaud you for stepping back into it. It's just, it's sad to think that it's happened to me, and it's happened to you, and it's happened to so many others that I don't know. Time to break the cycle, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like I always think of the flip side of that coin because it's like I did this Guitar Center uh, competition and everything like that, and it was like during a rough time in my life, and it's like some guy came up to me and like critiqued my performance, and I just took that to heart. And I was just like, maybe I don't have it like I used to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of a thing. This is like back in 2006, I think it was. And I stopped playing for like a while. And I like look back on that and I'm like, I'm not disappointed by the performance. I'm disappointed by the time lost.
Right.
You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and just like being like, well, maybe that guy's right. I shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be doing this anymore. Just kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's like if I can just go back, I'd just be like, no, you fumbled the ball,
Mm-hmm.
but you can always improve on it. I just wish I had somebody say that to me. You
Yeah.
messed up. You're not always going to be perfect, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but there's always areas for improvement and everything like that.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
like I said, it's like I picked it up again. It's just like this extension of myself. That's what that guitar, even the ukulele and everything like that, it's just like a part of me. It's like I speak through that more
Mm-hmm.
than I do anything else.
Yeah.
And it's just like not having that in my life, it just, I don't know, it just feels meaningless and everything like that. Like the best experiences I've ever had with my life was through music and everything like that. And it's just so weird that, out of everything, it's that. And I just went from just playing in my room
Mm-hmm.
to just like busking through different states, just playing and meeting strangers. You know what I mean? And just like finding that community. And it's just like I just thank God every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there.
Yeah.
And I encourage anybody to at least try picking up and playing an instrument. It doesn't have to be guitar, ukulele,
Mm-hmm.
piano, saxophone, like you use trombone. I don't care. Play.
so,
Just play.
so I'm
So
curious on that note. Uh, Considering I'm assuming you've probably taught your fair share of students at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, to get into it, after I've been teaching after school guitar lessons for like quite a while now, and it just became so imperative after COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
whenever we all came back from quarantine, it's just like seeing some of my students coming back with like depression because they may have lost like loved ones and everything like that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
that's never became therapeutic in a weird way. It's
Yeah.
like I would even pull students in during my conference period, like my off period, and we just go over like guitar lessons and everything like that, and just talk about how they're doing and everything like that. And this year, it's like I started working on an after school program where I just order some ukulele kits and we put together ukuleles. The kids like paint on them,
Mm-hmm.
customize them like how they want. And I
Yeah.
got some great artists in there, and it's just like seeing their work is just like wow, and just seeing them just like take to it, know how to like repair some things like some restringing and everything like that, and just playing. I'm just like, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's,
So what would you say is like, you don't have to choose one, but sort of like the top roadblocks that you tend to see in most of your students?
I think it's like what we just talked about with the voice thing. I
Yeah.
think we've grown up in this time where social media is it's a great tool. But I can understand how somebody would like look at a video of some dude just like shredding and just being like, I can't do that. I'm never
Mm-hmm.
going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Why try? And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, even the greatest guitar players I know can't do what that guy does. That guy is like playing, 12 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
That's his career. That's his job.
Yeah.
I was just like, play what you want to play.
Yeah.
Not, you don't have to live up to that. And I always say that like in order to be like I think as a master musician, if you can like take what you have in your head and bring it out through your guitar or whatever instrument you're playing,
Mm-hmm.
you've mastered it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like I think that's the magic in it. It's just taking what you have within you and
Yeah.
just exuding that.
Yeah.
Making it external for everyone to hear and enjoy. I'm like, that's it right there. That's what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
To get somebody to like maybe pause in their tracks and just like listen to you and just like give you that thumbs up, or even for yourself. Like I remember just playing music, like I'd hear something and just like go back to it over and over again. It's like whenever you get it down, it's like even if nobody's around, it's just like, damn, that's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Oh
just
yeah.
like it's just for yourself,
Yeah.
and it's just so much fun.
Well, it's like it's that process of taking something that's totally, the best words I can really think of are like within your mind, and
Yes.
something that's like just fully, and everything's energy. That's a different
Yeah.
conversation, but like taking that idea and making it tangible. Like even this whole podcast and concept of my studio and brand, like I had this vision in my mind 2 years ago when I was starting this journey that was like me on the screen doing something, but something that I knew would not only be beneficial for myself but for others. And it was just the constant trial and error and pursuit towards that. And in some ways I still feel like I'm working towards it. I think I'll always be pursuing it, just in the same way that with music I'm always looking to write something that's better than my last song, not
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah,
trying to, but just always working towards improving upon what I did yesterday. In a way, it's that game of building upon myself, but
yeah,
just that ability to expanding it from just writing a song and taking a song that's in your head, expanding that to the world and looking out at life and humanity and imagining and envisioning what a world would be like where people get along. And it goes right to that saying, be the change you want to see in the world. And
yeah, yeah.
who do we show up as then to create a reality which is harmonious? And that's been such a deep aspect of my process for the last 2 years, which, whew, crazy to think about.
No, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool, and I mean, like I said, you're still at the beginning of it. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? And it's like it's cool that you're bringing all these different walks of life together. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? With just sitting down and just talking about what makes them tick with music
Yeah.
and everything like that. I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, man. It's a super humbling process for me, and it's like getting to share it with people as well is like exciting for me. I've tried to start a lot of things that I kind of just end up tapering off because the passion just kind of falls away. This is like the first sort of thing where it's like I'm excited for these conversations and I leave them feeling better than when I started it. And it's like it's that feeling that motivates me to continue. And I think that's also what it's that feeling of playing an amazing show that makes the musician just want to get better and better, and that feeling of connecting with an audience that makes them want to get better and better. And it's that constant striving for improvement in all walks of life. And yeah,
There's
no,
no
I love it.
better thing than doing that is just playing. And it's like you look at the audience and it's like they're staring back at you,
Hmm.
but it's not like in disgust face or anything like that. They're just like amazed. Like, they kind of go off in their own little zone and it's like your music's the soundtrack to it. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's like I did this thing called a sidewalk session in Galveston. And it's like, you have this projector just playing above your head of whatever you want. And I just took like a nature scenic route and I just started playing like acoustic instrumentals. And, I was like, it's instrumentals. Nobody's going to pay attention or care.
Hmm.
And it's like all of a sudden you look up and you see everybody just like watching and just being like in awe of it, and I
Hmm.
just sit there like, damn, this is it right here. There's
Yeah.
nothing that gets better than people appreciating what you've done, that you've
Hmm.
worked really hard for, and it just being appreciated. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Even if it's just for that little small moment of time, it makes all the difference in the world.
Totally. It's funny
Yeah.
you say that, actually, because a video that came up on my YouTube today was this woman who was in her car, and she's just like, I just want to feel appreciated. Like that's it. I just want to be appreciated for what I do. So yeah,
Exactly.
like yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's that feeling.
And it's like it's every day I always get asked that question from like maybe a student or somebody else. They're like, why don't you pursue music? And I'm just like, well, I could do that, but then I'm just like, I need that security. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, I got it. I'm fortunate enough to have this job
Mhm.
where I do get those summers off for 2.5 months.
Mhm.
I'm talking like day one of summer vacation. I'm
Yeah.
a man on a musical mission.
Yeah.
I'll find whatever gig I can, just bury myself in whatever musical project I can. So whenever it's like school starts back up,
Yeah.
it's like you know, I have to kind of put that off aside, but it's like it's cool because people know me around campus as the music guy, not just an English teacher.
Yeah.
I'm recognized more for my hobbies and my passions than just the career, than
Yeah.
my 9 to 5s, and I just look at that as like that's my victory. That's my win.
For sure. And like, I think with the modern industry, we'll kind of wrap it up with this point
Yeah,
for the day as well. But I think with the modern industry, referencing back, it kind of puts the emphasis on pursuing music as something that's supposed to be playing shows and touring and like that, and releasing albums, and like that is music. But there's, some of my most impactful teachers in school were my music teachers. Like
yeah,
there's so much more to a career in music than just playing shows. And I think being a teacher and creating those connections and being with people and giving yourself the flexibility as well to have a job you enjoy while also doing music, like that to me is in essence a dream come true. As much as I love playing shows, I also love having these conversations. And there's sure the entertainment aspect of music, but there's also just the element of it that brings us together. And why is it only that we focus on the entertainment but not the teaching and the connection and everything else in music that it has to offer us? So yeah, man.
yeah. And it's like, I mean, the way that they talk about the Force in Star Wars, that's just how it feels with music and just with yeah, I don't know. It's like as a musician, I just feel chosen. I guess there's this
Hmm.
feeling to that, like I could have probably done something else and everything like that, but it's just something that just always it always came to me. Even whenever it's like there was that period of my life, whenever I stopped, it's like it never left me in a weird
Hmm.
way, and it's just like I thank God I'm still doing it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? So
absolutely. Well,
cheers to us
cheers to
musicians.
us, man. Absolutely. Jared, thank you so much for your time today.
No, man, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. Good luck with your podcast, man.
Yeah, dude. I appreciate that. I appreciate you. Been a great time. Do you have any last words you want to share before we wrap it up?
No, man, just don't be discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be discouraged, man. Just keep doing your thing. It's not just you. It's to
Of
any
course.
other musician that might have felt the same way, like with my singing and everything like that. Just keep doing it. Keep
Yeah.
practicing. You never know what you'll probably do something better than what you even expected. You know what I mean? If you keep going with it, so keep doing that.
Yeah, man. Well put. All right. Have a beautiful evening, and let's keep in touch, man.
All right, Duder. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
See ya. All right. Yeah. Super cool conversation, man. Thank you so much, Jared. Again. I'm just trying to figure out how to reflect on that. It's just really humbling for me to go through this process and get the chance to meet people and connect with musicians and really get to know what's happening out there, who's in the world, what are people experiencing, and how do those experiences relate to my experiences, and how can we connect in these experiences in order to recognize that we aren't alone in our struggles. It's just wow. So if you're a musician and you want to be on the podcast, please do shoot me a message. Would love to hear from you. Otherwise, my name's Aiden. This is Studio Raphael. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you around the studio sometime. Take care.